Hey everybody, Oliver Joyce here from Whiskeybarrel Studios. Full time coming at you. In case you missed yesterday's announcement, I am now working on Whiskeybarrel Studios and Swords and Sandals stuff full time. That's my job. Welcome to Ask Me Anything 6. We've done 6 of these now. Crazy. This is going to be a long one. There's a lot of questions. I want to try and smash through them. I'm not going to answer all of them because a lot of them are multi-part ones. So if I don't answer your question or the answer is kind of crap, I do apologize. We will divide this into 2 parts because the last time it went for an hour and a half, and that's too long for one video for anyone to sit through. So grab yourself a hot drink or a cold drink or get settled in if you need something to fall asleep to because it could be here a little while. The first bunch of questions actually came from the Discord channel, Swords and Sandals Discord. So if you're not part of the Discord, please join us because there's a lot of people talking Swords and Sandals, and you can get plenty of answers to certainly to the questions that many of you ask on YouTube and so on. A lot of people know more about Swords and Sandals, I feel like, than I do, and that's a tribute to them and their dedication to the series. All right, let's get started. These questions come from the Discord channel, as I said, starting back nearly a month ago. Gosh. First question was from Necron. Who was Stylonius, and how did you get inspired to make such a character? Same thing with his ancestors. It's actually based on a good friend of mine, Silas Rowe, who I used to work with at the old company, and is still, I actually think he's probably my best friend. He lives up in Queensland now, which is another state of Australia, and he's a sort of a big, fat, jolly character, about 6'4", and weighs a significant amount. He's a big, sturdy fellow who is a larger-than-life character, and Stylonius of Southport was based on him because Stylonius was what he used to call himself, Silas Stylonius, and Southport was where he went to school. The ancestors thing was just a bit of a joke that basically no matter what, when he died, he just created a new character and so on. Mr. Amazing, O'Mazing was also a Silas Rowe character as well. We played Warcraft together, and that was his follow, Mr. Amazing, follow was his thing. Okay, Land Rover asks, who are the deities of the Sword and Sandals universe? You know what? I still keep going backwards and forwards on this, but I don't think any gods exist in Swords and Sandals. There's still the one that everyone thinks is a god, but I think he's actually a powerful entity from another planet who's sort of able to influence things. More will be revealed on that in future Sword and Sandals things. Same with Malevolence. He represents the evil in Sword and Sandals, just as Sula One represents the good. The other races pray to their own deities. The Bors the Mighty prays to his ancestors, the Sons of Frost, etc. The Cycladians have their own deities, who I don't have any names for yet, because they came from another planet. But as far as gods that watch over Sword and Sandals, none exist, but the citizens of Sword and Sandals believe they do. Okay, Eldergross asks, what is the lore behind the Shitsurantula? There's no lore. Well, there wasn't originally. In Swords and Sandals Crusader, I just came up with a silly boss at the end of the survival mode. Once you beat all the armies, I thought, well, it'd be fun for you to fight a giant monster. So I came up with this sort of Shih Tzu, which is one of those silly little toy dogs, and a tarantula, so Shitsurantula, and I gave the giant spider body and the dog head. In Sword and Sandals Crusader Redux, he appears again, and he does have a bit of lore, and the lore is that Sagan Z, the Archmage who sort of runs Archmagius, and he's a little bit more malevolent than Bargle, not as powerful, but he tends to sort of deal in reanimating creatures and magically creating monsters and stuff like that, such as Physicles and that kind of stuff, and the Sagan blobs. He created the Shitsurantula by after an argument with the evil wizard Tectonica, who you'll meet in Sword and Sandals Crusader Redux. They got into an argument, and so he took her pet Shih Tzu and turned it into a Shitsurantula, and then something went wrong. It grew huge, massive, gargantuan sized, and started roaming the land. So there you go. That is the lore behind that silly monster. Necron asks the same thing. Is Shitsurantula supposed to be a spider dog? Yeah, answered above. Okay, Matt has a bunch of questions. I'll see what I can get through of these. Do you have any gameplay video of Avatarget Racing or the big online quiz games? No, because I didn't make those. They were done by the old company, and they were up on the Fizzy website. But I didn't make them. I did the little actual avatar images for Avatar Target Racing, but that was one of a bunch of pretty average games that came out of that company that I wasn't parley to. Okay, he also asks, why is Swords and Sandals 2 Redux not available in Poland, sorry, Poland, on Google Play? It should be now. I can't remember why it was taken down, but hey, noisy birds. The birds are loud today, as you might notice from my last video, which was filmed this morning. Could you create a program or online profile creator for Swords and Sandals avatars, like the old Fizzy Playaholics avatar creator? No plans for that right now, but perhaps in the future I might. I'd like to release the sprite sheets for everyone to muck around with at some point, at least for Swords and Sandals 2. Probably when Swords and Sandals 6 starts coming out, I can release the old stuff. What happened to Bladetron's laser swords and Physically's blobular staff after defeating them? I'm just going to assume that the laser swords were too massive to wield properly and required an external power source that the Bladetron had that you don't have access to, and the blobular staff was probably too poisonous to touch. Fertile Mind Entertainment was previously eGames' name, another company or what? Fertile Mind Entertainment is actually the owner of eGames. They are the venture capital firm who created eGames, and my business partner, Aram, is actually in charge of both. Okay, for what boss builder menu was Sword and Sandals 2 used? Not sure what you mean by that, but I did have a custom boss creator that isn't available to the public for that game. He also asks, why is Antares on the old Sword and Sandals website gray? I think that's just what the artist had. He only had a gray image of it. I didn't do that, but yeah. Why is Sword and Sandals 6 going to be 3D or 2D? It's going to be through 2D. Confused myself. 2D. It was going to be 3D, but now it's going to be 2D for reasons I'll explain down the track. Okay, there's a lot of questions to get through, and that's why I'm kind of racing along. I've had a coffee and a tea, so I'm buzzing a little bit, and some chocolate. Okay, Nexus asks, who was nameless before he became a pirate? Answer unknown at this stage. Maybe he was always a pirate, but he also went on to become a great man who took down, Chaos and so on. Will there be an anti-piracy feature for the next Sword and Sandals games? Probably not. Only, whatever Steam's piracy things can do. The more you try to fight piracy, the more pirates crack your games. You know what I mean? There's never truly a way to do it. Eldergoss asks, did I call you Eldergross before? Sorry. Eldergoss asks, question 1, who was a Starbound Gladiator before he signed up for the Gladiator Ultratus? Similar question. I don't know. Just a man with a man's courage. A lot of these lore questions I haven't thought about, but it gives me pause to think about. So come back in the future and I will have written backstories for a lot of these characters. He was basically the player character. So his backstory is whatever you think it was. He is not the same gladiator as in Sword and Sandals 2 or 1. They're all a different character. And in Sword and Sandals 5, new gladiator again. Who was a protagonist in Sword and Sandals 5? Same guy's nameless. There you go. No, different guy. Although at the end of Sword and Sandals 2, it says that you catch a boat off to Seoul's Gateway, it's assumed that something else happened to you. Because when you start a new Sword and Sandals game, you're always a level 1 character, so it doesn't make sense that you would be the hero from the game before. Okay, Dragofist 3 asks, is the original Sword and Sandals 5 story different from the Redux? No, it's the same story. It was almost identical, just without the sort of play-by-mail style multiplayer thing that Sword and Sandals 5 original had, and of course all the gem in-app purchase crap that really slowed down the game. That game no longer exists because it was so tied into the old Fizzy servers that it's impossible. Nico asks, no, he actually answered the question. He actually says, the meaning of Redux, according to Google, is brought back, revived. Exactly. Congratulations to Nico, who is also one of the 2 moderators of the Discord channel. Him and Overlord do a fantastic job, these guys. Eldergos asks, will spells go back to being purchased or will they be obtained by leveling up? Or both methods in Sword and Sandals 6? To be determined. I got to sit down one day and actually I want to go for a long hike and plan all this in my head. I like the skill tree system from Sword and Sandals 3, whereby you level up powers and then you can actually buy spells from the spell shop owners. That's kind of borrowed from World of Warcraft, and I quite like that system, so I might go back to that. What do you guys think? Abdullah asks, when you taunt in Sword and Sandals 2 and it says 99 chance of hitting, sometimes your opponent gets hit, sometimes he gets pushed by the taunts. What are the chances of those? Can't tell you exactly, but it skews more in favor of taking damage, I believe. I'm going to do a patch for Sword and Sandals Classic at some point soon too, that will fix up the bit where when you taunt and they go too far away from each other. I'm going to fix that. We're already 10 minutes in and I've got a billion questions to go. My gosh. Hope you're having fun. I'm having fun. I'm hyped. Is the Primeape still alive or is he dead? Please tell me he's alive. This is asked by the King of Coughing's Fools. Primeape is very much alive and appears in Swords and Sandals Crusader Redux. The narrative is that Sir Isaac Atlas Joyce, who is an explorer in the world of Brandor, and my son, I've made him a character in the game, and I'm going to make Charlie, who's also my son, a character. But in the game, he's an explorer, and he finds the Primeape in the islands and brings it across to Brandor in chains. Basically a rip-off of King Kong. Then King Kong breaks free, and the Primeape breaks free. Oh, actually, you know what? We're talking about Great Kong, not Primeape. Great Kong is an even bigger ape. Primeape, I believe, after Crusader, is dead. I think he's dead. I'm sorry. I think he just didn't survive the Crusades. There were just bigger, tougher colossi out there. Necron asks, who wants to be a gladiator going to be at least a spin-off game one day? No. There might be a little Easter egg nod to it in a future Swords and Sandals, but for those who don't know, that was the original name of Swords and Sandals before I got the name. And it even had its own catchy theme song, which was something like, your boat was sunk, now you're in strife, so grab a sword or grab a knife. Tonight you're fighting for your life, so do. Who wants to be a gladiator? Something like that. I should release that. That's awful. I should not release that. Hell Soul asks, it's actually one of the champions in Sword and Sandals 3. Why do you live in the future? Because I'm in Australia. And of course, as everyone knows, only criminals come from Australia. Princess Bride reference there. We're about 10 hours ahead of some other countries. New Zealand is ahead of us, of course. Elder Goss asks, is there a reason as to why you fight the slave driver later in the game in Sword and Sandals 2 Redux as compared to the original? I can't remember the reason for this. I think because I created a bit more of a story-based narrative for the Redux, I didn't want to kill him so early. I didn't want it to be revealed about all the skeletons under the arena and everything. So I wanted the revenge thing to happen a little bit later and him to be more of a powerful figure in the game. That's my take on it anyway. Amusing Moose, great name, asks, why is the Yeti project so overpowered? It was a fluke. I was just putting in stats at random when I first made Sword and Sandals 3, and that particular combination of stats just proved to be a real bastard for people to fight against. And I've thought so many times about nerfing it and making it a regular boss, but you know what? I'm afraid that if I do that, it kind of loses a bit of the magic of the game, because that becomes a badge of honor to defeat that. And if you nerf it, maybe the game is less fun. I don't know. I want to balance characters in Sword and Sandals 6 better than I did in previous games, but I kind of feel like if you can beat the Yeti project, then you're a true Sword and Sandals legend. So I'm loath to patch it. Was a Daemon race in Sword and Sandals 3 named after Digimon of the same name, or just a fun twist on the word demon? It was actually borrowed from Ultima, Daemon. Not Digimon itself, but Ultima had daemons, Daemon, and I kind of liked that, so I used that in the game. Crazed Hunter asks, which is harder, a rock melon or a coconut? Well, it's got to be a rock melon, right? Because it's a rock and it's a melon. I don't know. What do you think? I guess both hit pretty hard when you stand under a tree. You're not thinking which one's going to hit me harder. I love that question. One question: what if Sword and Sandals games in the future are going to be made with Godot instead of Unity from Nexus? Well, I'm thinking pretty hard that Sword and Sandals 6 will be made with Godot. Godot? I hate that name is really hard to pronounce. It's like no one ever knows what it's supposed to be. I think it's Godot, but look what I got here. Look at this. Teach yourself Godot in 24 hours. So this time tomorrow I'll know everything. I've actually read this book. I read it over the last few months. And from what I read, I love everything about Godot. I've done a few sort of, hours just mucking around with the engine, the interface, and Godot looks awesome. It is completely free, has tons and tons of power. It's open source. All the royalties for the games you make in it go to you. Has a huge user community, not as big as Unity, not even close. But from what I gather, I think Godot is halfway between Flash, which is what I used to make the old games in, and Unity, which is what I made Spartacus in. And I spent about a year or so in Unity last year making Spartacus, and there's a lot to like about it, but Unity has a lot of bloat. It's a massive, massive lumbering beast, and you're also tied to Unity, the corporation. So if things go wrong, you could be screwed. Not that that's going to happen, but it's happened to me in the past with Adobe and Flash, and I don't ever want to be in that position again. So I can't say definitively, but I think Sword and Sandals 6 will be made with Godot. I'm going to start doing more tests and experiments in December once I've got Sword and Sandals Crusader Redux up and I've got the patches for all the other games up. Can breathe easy and learn some Godot. But if you are thinking about getting into game development yourself, highly recommend checking it out. It's free download. It's about 40 megs. That's how small it is. It's awesome. Even the program Godot was made in Godot. How cool is that? If you're asking how that's possible, they've got their own GD script and they use that to make the program. So it's awesome. Anyway, I'm turning to a bit of a Godot evangelist here and should shut up. A few people agreeing with me about Godot. Slothful Prisoner asks, will the option to spare foes be in Sword and Sandals 6? Yes, they will. Spare and kill, the thumbs up, thumbs down. That's one of the things I like to borrow from Sword and Sandals 3. I really want to make this game kind of the best of 3 and 2, if you know what I mean. Eldergoss asks, what remains of the Legion of H after the events of Sword and Sandals 5? Pretty decimated. Now they're just sort of like an evil cult who are hanging around but lack a lot of power. Chaos grows old, but he has a bit of a weird demonic pact, so he may not actually be as old as you think, and the crazy eyes and everything are keeping him alive. The other characters from the Sword and Sandals universe will be old by the time Sword and Sandals 6 happens, or dead. Spoiler. Slothful Prisoner also asks, he's actually sent me a boss character idea, and I'm going to keep that and add that to my notes, and I'll check it out later. Thank you for sending me that. I much appreciated. Eldergoss, man, you are smashing through these questions. Much appreciated. You're in heaps. Were any of the wandering monsters like Shitulantula and whatever else is going to be Crusader involved in the plot? Shitulantula is. The other ones are not. They're just going to be random events. He also asks, you fight the great beasts early on in 2, but his undead form is brought towards the end of the game in 3. Explain the massive power spike from being undead. I guess by being undead and sort of reanimated, he no longer gets tired because he's so massive. It's a lot of stamina to keep that hulking frame alive. But when he's dead, he doesn't feel this tiredness, this fatigue. So that's my take on it, which I just came up with then. I'm the king of coughing fools. What's your opinion of Steve getting in Smash? So Steve from Minecraft is now in Smash Brothers. What a coup for Minecraft. Awesome. My nieces love Minecraft. Smash Brothers is huge. It's obviously just a match made in heaven, really, as far as like the millions of dollars that are going to be made by both Nintendo and Microsoft. Steve, the character, is, as far as I know, light on personality. Don't know much about him. Even the fact that he's called Steve sounds pretty dull, but, you know, got a lot of fans, so good for them. Elder Goss asks, the Dusk Harlequin from Sword and Sandals Crusader Redux now serves the Death Imperium instead of Lord of Sorrow. But what was the Lord of Sorrow? They are both Shadow Guardians, which are a strange bunch of creatures that come from another dimension and have come through the Consolation mirror to serve evil. They are two different creatures, but they are both related. The names have changed over the iterations, but they're both basically like giant Grim Reapers. Necron, do you like the new Hellish server icon? Yeah, I love this Halloween vibe too. Why does the Elder Goss ask, why does the location of Doom Trek keep on changing? Because I sort of stuffed up early on. It's meant to be an island. You'll see in an old hand-drawn map that I made it part of the mainland, but that was when I was about 15. You might see that map floating around on the internet, the map I did. But it's supposed to be an island off the east coast of Brandor, sort of fairly high up and a fair way away. That's meant to be the official spot. I'm going to release a proper world map one day. I've done a lot of it for the Crusader Redux, but I want to do the islands and everything in there as well. One day when we have more time. Now we have a bit more time, though. You know, we're full-time and all. Necron asks, why does the original gangster Swords and Sandals 2 Antares have a huge afro? That's just because I didn't expect people to be able to knock his head off. I thought his helmet would stay on, but I didn't really design it like that. He's not supposed to have an afro. Matt asks, are you going to do a bundle on Steam with all spin-off games? Like Dwarf and Wharf, Death Row, Dobro, Ghoul Academy, Face Chase, etc. Yeah, I've got the rights to them because I now, my business partners at eGames have that. We're thinking about doing a Fizzy collection, potentially. Depends how much interest there is in it. Maybe. It wouldn't take me that long. They're old games, but, you know, a few weeks' work. We'll see. Might be something I do next year. Since Elder Goss asks, since Great Kong appeared in survival mode for Sword and Sandals Crusader Redux, how do you get from Skull Island, where you fight him on pirates, all the way to a wandering circus? And yes, he knows that Great Kong is a reference to King Kong. I mentioned that earlier in this video. Sir Isaac Atlas Joyce takes him there on a big ship, exactly like King Kong. And he escapes from a circus when he gets to the mainland and breaks free and causes trouble. You see him as a wandering monster in Redux. Okie doke. Victoria asks, I'm not the first to ask, have you ever thought about mod support? Hopefully for 6. It was never really possible with the previous games because they were made in Flash and Air and those kind of systems that just did not support modding. But I'm going to think about it. I would love for people to be able to design their own, put your physical photo on a Gladiator and that kind of thing. As far as modding the whole game, a bit challenging. I don't know. We'll see. But at least to mod the Gladiators would be fun. Espresso asks, which Sword and Sandals game was the most fun to make? 2. The original 2, I think. That was where I was really at my creative peak, I think, and everything I'd learned sort of just went into that. Bless me. Oh dear. One of those days. 2 was, I loved, I made it when I was in Ireland. I was chasing a girl a long time ago. Chased her over Ireland and didn't work out, but I did a bit of Sword and Sandals coding there on the plane even. I remember looking out the window on the plane and typing up some Sword and Sandals stuff. So that game has very fond memories, and that was the most popular game as well. So I feel like that's the one I got everything right, and ever since I've just been stuffing it up. So I hope to fix that and really get back on top with Sword and Sandals 6. King of Coughing's Fools asks, what happened to Hikaos after the good and bad ending of Sword and Sandals 5? To be revealed. He's alive though. Demonic Bro asks, why do the Sword and Sandals 2 champions survive when you cut their heart out? Or their legs and so on? Magic. Let's just say it's a magic that only allows them to survive in the arena, and it's very expensive, and only the arena champions can afford it. And it only sort of, it's at the whim of the emperor or whoever's running the arena, whether they want to, revive these guys or not. But you can just assume that the popular champions survive, but the unpopular ones, like Pigzus or whatever, don't, and they get turned into a feast for everyone. Okay. When will Icy Arminus? When will Archangel Arcturus, maybe Sandals and sister or something, be revealed? Maybe Sword and Sandals 6, and definitely in Consolation Mirror. You'll find all about her, and she's a powerful, powerful figure. Eldergos asks, how are colossi such as Ferocles and Gygax able to grow to such a power that is presumably equal to the Archangel and Zizabal, who fought in late game Sword and Sandals 2 in Crusader? Just because they were always massive. You can assume that original Sword and Sandals 2, they're not as big as they should have been. I think they should have always been a lot bigger. The ones in the sort of Colossus version is basically the canon version of it. I shrunk them down for you to play against as a gladiator. But by the time 6 comes along, I want to be able for you to fight things with you being that big and that thing being that big. That'd be kind of cool. Zoom the camera way, way out. Necron asks, why were potions a spell in Sword and Sandals 3 rather than actual drinkable ones? Don't remember. I think it was just because the system of items being used, it just made sense to make potions like a spell. Sort of slots, basically. Eldergos asks, will the Sword and Sandals 5 protagonist be involved with the plot of Sword and Sandals 6? We're going to assume the good ending is canon. It is. I think... I don't know. Probably not. Maybe there's... I don't know. I don't know. I should figure that out, though. What I will tell you is that the Starbound Gladiator is coming back with the automatons. They're coming back, and they're badder than ever. And he's going to be big interstellar rock star. Drago Fisk asks, what's the canon ending of Sword and Sandals Pirates? Officially, King Lionel and the Kingdom of Phaetor won the war. And everyone else lost. Although they all fared pretty well out of it, and it allowed the Iron Republic to get rich and all that kind of thing. In Sword and Sandals Crusader Redux, I've also done some alternative endings to imagine if Sel and Helmgard won the Crusades and that kind of thing. If you play the Conquer the Realm mode, you'll experience those. Mateo Fett asks, he says that's the one. The official canon endings are the one that are in the Tome of Lore. When I say the Tome of Lore, go to swordsandsandals.com. Huge document there. That's the Tome of Lore, and I'm always updating that when I can with new information about the series. Katsu and Lumi asks, who's one of the great artists on the Discord channel, why is there no way to see your achievements in the Sword and Sandals 2 and 5 Redux? I just never put achievements in. I'd like to one day maybe go back and put them in, but for now I just didn't have time. And will there be achievements in 6? Yeah, there will be, for sure. They'll have Steam achievements. Lye asks, in a free-for-all match with all leaders, the green team used to be a disadvantage because there are only 2 leaders versus the 3 in the other ones. Will there be 3 leaders for green? And if not, will that aspect be compensated anyway? No. No compensation. They do it tough. This is if you turn allies on and you have an allied victory and so on. But no, they just they're a lot that they choose to go out on their own and be neutral. Sadly. Eldergos asks, what was the terror that Cycladians fled from which resulted in them going through the Consolation Mirror? I don't know. Something massive and nautical, I think. They come from an ocean planet, which is mostly ocean, and huge Leviathan sea creatures live there. So something, big enough to devour not just ships, but entire cities. And Eldergos asks, what was your experience developing the original Swords and Sandals 5? Awful. It sucked. I hated it. I was so miserable. It started off good, and I'd designed this really cool sort of big arena kind of thing where you wandered around this huge sort of arena city. You had other gladiators to talk to. There was going to be multiplayer. I was really proud of it, and then it got canned by my old boss, who insisted on the game being a mobile game and all this in-app purchases. And then I thought, right, well, I'm going to do a dungeon crawl here instead. And then he said, no, you got to do an arena fighter, and it's got to go. And it was a miserable experience, and it lasted for far too long. It was nearly 2 years to make, and I had an artist with me, and the art didn't quite suit the style, and he was a great guy, but it just didn't, and it was messy. So I was glad to be able to do the Redux, but even the Redux couldn't fix many of the things that were wrong with that game. And it's been 10 years since the last official Swords and Sandals sequel, so I'm looking forward to, doing it again and getting things right. I see Armin ask, when will Swords and Sandals Consolation maybe be released? 4 or 5 years time, long time away. That's a big role-playing game in the style of Ultima and, Divinity and that kind of thing, long time before I can make that. And it also depends on the success of Swords and Sandals 6. Demonic Bro asks, Oliver, why are your games so addictive? I don't know, you tell me, but thank you. You made my day. Appreciate it. In a nutshell, I'd like to try and make the games that I want to play if I only had a little bit of time. I think this doesn't always happen, but if I can make a game that doesn't waste your time so much in terms of you can just get to the gameplay, then that's what I want to make. Elder Goss asks, will you update the term of law after release of Sword and Sandals Crusader Redux? Yeah. I plan on finish off the chapters for Sword and Sandals 3 and of course 4 and 5 and so on, and of course go back and update Crusader. Actually, no, I've already done most of the lore for Crusader Redux. It's in there. You can find long chapters on the new battle and everything like that. Katsu asks, when will Crusader Redux be released on mobile? About a month after Crusader Redux comes out on PC, which the new date is November 4th. I know I keep delaying the game, but our marketing guys that we've teamed up with have said that's the date, and I'll explain this in a future video why that is. But so it'll probably be in very early December, definitely before Christmas. Paywall for Crusaders Redux, same as Pirates. You'll basically be able to play first 3 chapters or something like that, and the other game modes will be locked off. So it'll be Maximus mode and Ultralis mode, but the whole thing won't be that expensive, $5 or $6. Not too much, and yeah, I think so. Anyway, that's it right now. Can you spin that globe in the background, please? Also set it to Australia. I can. Uno momento. Brazil. My friends in Brazil. Big shout out. Australia, mate. That's where we live. Yeah. So, Australia. I should move this camera a little bit so you can see it. There you go. Dear. Oh, we're in half an hour already, and I haven't even got to the YouTube questions. It's nuts. We're going to stop this video after the Discord questions. On a serious note, Katsu asks, what if Sword and Sandals becomes absurdly popular? How will you handle the fame, and how will the fandom be? Well, I think the game will be always more famous than me. You guys know who I am. I've only got, I don't know, I can't remember how many, 4,000 subscribers on YouTube. Maybe that'll blow up a bit. The games have been played many more times than any of my videos have been watched and that kind of thing. So it's always in proportion. I think if I was ever to get famous and wealthy and so on, I would always try to be, stay true to myself and to you people, because that's how I've always tried to be, and people don't appreciate it when you change. And, they do say money and fame changes you. It's not something I ever see really happening. Even, the most famous games out there, nobody really knows the developers, other than Notch from Minecraft and Shigeru Miyamoto from Super Mario and all that kind of thing. Like, you don't really know who made Darkest Dungeons and so on. Some people do, but others don't. You know what I mean? Yeah. But who wouldn't want to be wealthier? It'd be great, But I'm pretty content with where I am. I would love for Sword and Sandals to become huge, though, just because that's always been a dream. And if I could get a bigger team working on it and really make it something special, that'd be awesome. Who knows what'll happen in the coming years? He also asks, after you take a break from Sword and Sandals Crusader Redux, will you finish off the Tome of Lore? Or you go straight into making the long-awaited 10 years due Sword and Sandals 6? Yeah, I'll be doing both at the same time. I will probably take a few days to do the Tome of Lore, though, because it's long overdue. I used to do it when I was on the train commuting to my old job, and that's potentially partially why I stopped, because I don't commute anymore. Necron asks, do you remember what that file that contains the Arena Champions code from Sword and Sandals 3? It's somewhere on my hard disk. You can create your own Arena Champions with that, but it's somewhere. Eldergoss asks, what was the story of Selon, Helmgard, and Marita Pointe during their days with the Kingdom and prior to them founding the Iron Republic? Selon was a powerful lord, and his sister was influential in the court, but they're always kind of troublemakers. Their father, Florian Dupont, was a very powerful lord who broke free and rebelled before them in the new Crusader Redux. And he, of course, died. And that's in the Tome of Lore. It should be anyway. When will Eldergoss asks, when will the story of Galacticus Fantasticus be told? I don't know. It might be a DLC, a downloadable content pack for Sword and Sandals 6, because I'm thinking about doing like a remake of Sword and Sandals 2 using Sword and Sandals 6 engine, or Sword and Sandals 3 using the 6 engine, depending on how much people like that. Wouldn't that be fun? I don't want to have to keep remaking these engines all the time, but if I can get one that really is good, and then just create new bosses and new world maps for them, and new armor and weapons and stuff, that'd be cool. And if so, then that will tell the story of Galacticus Fantasticus, which was the mythical, fantastic space tournament that was supposed to happen at the end of Sword and Sandals 3, which was going to be Sword and Sandals 4, but then, of course, my old boss in the old company had his genius ideas of going, let's do a bunch of crappy minigames, wrap them up, and call it 4. You know my thoughts on that one. Tavern bloody quests. Abdullah asks, there's a very important question for Sword and Sandals 2 speedruns. Oh yeah, Abdullah does the speedruns. Yeah, this guy's a legend. This guy knows how to beat this game. When used well in the old version, it does grievous damage. Is that considered a bug glitch? It was intended. It's meant to be a super powerful, maybe even overpowered thing. But I think that was intended, even though it is... it's almost meant to be like a chance for an instant kill. It was based on a skill from the old game Barbarian, which is an Amiga game where you'd spin like this, and sometimes you have to chop their head off. Where are we at? My gosh. Katsu asks some more questions. What do you think of the entourage system in Sword and Sandals Medieval? Would you add something kind of passive bonus in 6? Yeah, I like that. That was sort of a bit of a trading card system before trading card games were kind of popular. You just get, you've got the squire or the astrologer in your party. I wouldn't mind having something like that, and that was something I would definitely think about bringing back for 6. He asks, do you still work the 3-day-a-week job? How much money do you make from that compared to Sword and Sandals 6? And will you take the risk of leaving the job to work fully on game dev? Well, when you wrote this question, you didn't know. But in yesterday's video, I announced that I'm full-time on Swords and Sandals. Hurrah! And, right now the games are making more than that job was, in 3 days a week. So it was lunacy to stay at this other job. Who knows how long that will last, but for right now, this is my full-time income, and I'm very fortunate for that. If it all goes wrong, I'll have to go back and be a programmer, maybe at that job, maybe somewhere else. So it's nice to have that as a backup, but I do plan on trying to do this for as long as I can. He asks, do you think Sword and Sandals is dark or jolly? A little of both. Funny enough, the Gladiator games are quite jolly for, such a dark subject. The silly gladiators and dancing and farts and music and everything. Crusader Redux isn't as funny or fun. There are moments of brightness and comedy in there, but the story is a bit more of a classic fantasy thing, and I kind of wrote that when I was trying to be an aspiring fantasy author, which I still want to do one day, but I kind of went a little bit serious on that. 5 is quite dark, not that much comedy in it. 6 will be fun. It'll have some badass stuff in it and big monsters and stuff, but I want that to go back to the absurd and the guitars and the robots and the pro wrestling and the music and everything, because that's, I think, what people like about Sword and Sandals. There's enough serious games out there that we don't need everything to be super serious. What do you think of mods? Answered that before, but I think it's a great idea. Do you plan on having Tony Lowe do the art for 6, because you and Tony have different art styles and they usually don't match? No, Tony is done with Swords and Sandals. Tony Lowe is a great friend of mine who I've known for many, many years. He's almost 6'10", 6'9" in height. He's a giant of a man. And we worked together back at the old company. And so we were kind of forced together. He was the artist and I had no alternatives. He designed the logo for the game, which is really cool. And his art has gotten a lot better and more detailed. He's always been a good artist, but he's now a really good artist. But like you said, the art style does not match mine. And we won't be working together again. He doesn't want to anyway. He has a full-time job, actually where I used to work, at the educational company. So he has no interest in it. So I'll be using a new artist, more of in line with my own style. And the backgrounds will be more kind of anime backgrounds, like you see the backgrounds in anime. That's the style I want for it, not the kiddie cartoon backgrounds. The gladiators you saw in Medieval, the knights, they never really fit. That's a bit of a bastard child, that game, because it doesn't suit my style, does it? But, you know, at the end of the day, he's a better artist than me by far, and I was honored to work with him, but I'm looking forward to working with a new artist for the next one, although I've actually been working with Ore Studios in Indonesia. Great, really great guys. A guy called Gifney Ricarda, who did all the portrait art for Swords and Sandals Pirates and Crusader and some of the backgrounds. And he's a wonderful guy, and I will definitely be using his services for at least some of the art in Swords and Sandals 6. But I'm going to be looking for a full-time artist to do all the armor and weapons and stuff like that. It's a big job. Eldegos asks, will runes return in 6? They will. You'll be able to enchant your armor and weapons. Necron asks, was a Captain Sword and Sandals 1 based on someone or just purely random? No, it was just random. Although Tavington, the other pirate who escapes the boat with you, the name comes from Tavington, who was the evil English commander in The Patriot, which was a Mel Gibson movie back in the day, and I always liked that villain, played by a guy called Jason Isaacs. So, yeah, where are we up to now? I've lost myself. Is Arglax really a baboon man, according to Sword and Sandals 3? Not really. I think that's just a silly thing I went there. He's a beast man. You never really find out what kind of beast. Part wolf, part dog, part baboon. But yeah, it's undecided. Matt asks, maybe it's a stupid question, but is it possible to do Sword and Sandals multiplayer Ultratus just NPCs? It'd be kind of the same as solo Ultratus, really. You mean just without tournaments and so on. That multiplayer Ultratus is completely busted these days because it was so tied into the server. Eldergos asks, is voice acting over dialogue planned in future Sword and Sandals titles? Potentially, it'd be fun to have a catchphrase for each arena champion. It's a lot of voice work to do if there's, hundreds of voice lines and so on. There won't be full voice acting, but it'd be cool to have a catchphrase, maybe when they arrive and when they die. Of course, as many of you know, I've got a couple of YouTubers who've said that they'd like to be part of it. Most famously, Charlie Penguins, also known as Moist Critical, has come on board, and he's 5 million YouTube supporters. So he's massive, and he will be the number one draw card for people who like YouTubers and so on. But there are other big ones. Danny, for those who know Unity games, DNANI is on board as Karolek, the Polish YouTuber who's huge as well. Voice of Malzar is another big one. And there's a couple of other guys who I'm trying to get on board who haven't, fully committed, but we'll see. I'm even going to try and get Lord British, Richard Garriott, to have a gladiator in the game. That might be a pipe dream, but I do have some channels to reaching him, and maybe that'll happen. Because Lord British, of course, Richard Garriott, made Ultima, and Ultima is, as I mentioned in the past, one of the most influential games of my life, really. My God, it's lunchtime almost, and I'm so busy this week. I've got this video trailer to do for Crusader Redux. I'm doing all the promotional stuff. Still got to finish some things on the game, and we'll talk more about that in part 2. I'm so busy, but I just do like doing these AMEs. But we're gonna park part 1, and I'll do part 2 coming up in the next few days or something. All right, let's keep going. I can hear a dog barking, going, "Roar!" Very distracting. All right, Ollie asks Katsu again. What do you think about fan art that slightly changes the character? I'm all for it. Katsu does wonderful fan art of the different characters, and his or her, I'm not sure really, style of costumes and so on is wonderful. And I love fan art of all different kinds. Wonderful. If someone wrote Sword and Sandals fan fiction, would you get some ideas? Yeah. If it was good enough, I'd certainly approach that person and say, can I make this canon? Can we write this in? And we've done that in the past, actually, with a few things. What do you think about Sword and Sandals being referenced as a cameo in another piece of media? Don't know if it's big enough. I know you guys love it, and I love it. You know, maybe. If you ever see it in anything else, let me know. It'd be great. What do you think about a cover or a remix of the music? Same thing again. If you see it, let me know. I'm all for it. I'm so honored that anyone wants to make fan content. And finally, fun fact, Matt Rozak, R-O-S-Z-A-K, is also making a classic collection of his old games, the Epic Battle Fantasy collection. Yeah, Matt's awesome. I've talked with him a lot over the years, fellow Flash developer. We've given each other a bit of advice on getting these things up and running, and he is a big success. He's made a lot of money from those games. He's a wonderful guy and a huge inspiration to me. And, you know, he's fighting the good fight and getting the old games out there, proving that, you know, it doesn't have to be the best and brightest new games. A good old classic game can still be popular. And also, what do I think about Flash games being compiled so they can be played when Flash shuts down? Yeah, there's projects that are doing that. Internet Archive and Newgrounds and so on are trying to preserve the old Flash games, so hopefully you'll still be able to play them. And Katsu asks more questions. Have you drunk enough water? Well, as you've noticed, I'm smashing my way through this bottle because it's hard to talk for as long as this without getting dehydrated. Also, how many arenas are there in Brandor? There's a bunch. He knows of the Doomtrek, Badlands, and Souls Gateway arenas. Would be interested in others. There are other minor arenas scattered around that haven't made the Tome of Law yet, but there'll be a new location for Sword and Sandals 6 on Brandor somewhere in an all-new environment. The minor ones are like the minor leagues. You fight your way through them, then you get to the big leagues. Does the continent of Elder have Antares race or other nations? And what does it look like? It definitely has Antares race. It looks, in my head, kind of like Egypt and fertile valleys and jungles and palm trees and big pyramids and so on. It also has other races and monsters and so on, but the most powerful, of course, are the Eldor Hathians, who are taller, dark skin, so grey skin, purple hair, powerful magic users into sort of death magic and stuff like that. They call themselves emperors. There's no one emperor of Eldor Hath, but if you're a powerful warlord there, you can be an emperor. And he says, I feel there's a time gap between medieval and Reduxes. What happened during those times? Well, because medieval actually was known as You Are a Knight. And I started making that when I was at the old company, and that took me about a year to make as that game, and then another nearly a year to remake as Sword and Sandals Medieval when I got the rights of Medieval again, to Sword and Sandals, sorry. And so it then took another nearly 2 years to do Sword and Sandals 5 and Sword and Sandals 2, because that was another new engine altogether. So yeah, it took a long time. Plus, I actually had to get a full-time job because I had no money. I spent sort of 2014 just doing contracting work. And then by the time 2015 came along, I had to get a full-time job. So I was building them at night. That's why it took so long. Will Sword and Sandals 6 be turn-based, be an action per turn? I feel that will make the gameplay slightly faster and riskier. It will be up to multiple actions per turn, depending on how much action points you have, much like XCOM, that kind of thing. I'll explain more in a future video. Eldergoss asks, what do you plan for the story in Sword and Sandals 6? To be determined, but in a nutshell, the automatons return from outer space with new weapons, and they tell of a new threat for Brandor. So they're trying to assemble the greatest warriors in the land in a big tournament to basically save the land from a new evil, not Antares. He asked, do you plan for Whiskeybarrel Studios to become a public game dev company sometime in the future? No plans to hire anyone else at the moment. I kind of like working solo. It would be nice to have another program, another artist. But I'm, The way I can do this full time is by keeping it lean. I work at home, as you can see. If we do really well, we get bigger and brighter and so on, but that's often the death knell for certain companies. Matt asks, whose fingerprint was on the Third Sense logo? It was that old, my old bosses at the old company. Yeah, there you go. Okay, last bunch of questions for this video. There's 10 questions from Katsu and then a couple from Eldergos. We'll ask Eldergos first, to ask, what are the future of the Stylonius lineage during the events of the future Sword and Sandals titles? Well, of course, there's going to be grandson and great-grandson and great-great-grandson. He'll keep going because that's fun. He asks, what happened to the Cycladians between Pirates and Six? They kind of keep to themselves. They basically sort of set off to discover a new continent, and we never know what happened to them. There's still a few remaining on Pilthia. They have this sort of, they maintain a base on Brando, but you don't see them that often. They prefer to keep to the sea because they are always from that ocean planet. Katsu is the last bunch of questions. Eldergos and Katsu are the MVPs of this video. They've done so many. What do you think of my version of Luminesca? Sort of a wife-mother figure with political and magical powers. Yeah, she's great. I never really fleshed out the character very much, so I'd love to sort of, take your ideas and put them into the official tome. How does Marie de Pointe become a ghost, and will she replace Antares as a sort of necromancer? I don't remember, but it's a similar power to what Antares used. And as part of a curse she was able to place on Selon that should haunt him forever. And yeah, she'll be a necromancer in Sword and Sandals 6. She'll return. What's the relation between Maharaja Saeed, Daughter of the Blades, and Lord Talahuddin? All from Taj Brandir, which was taken over by Arglax. Arglax, the Beast Lord, and so on, is not from there, but he took it over and made it his own citadel, and the Beast Forces took it over. And there were rich and cultured people before that, Middle Eastern people, and I don't remember exactly their relationship, but Lord Talahuddin and Daughter of the Blades, I think, are related, and Maharaja Saeed was also from that area. I can't remember. Real name of the Daughter of the Blades, I've forgotten. I've written it somewhere. Ancestors of King Lionel. King Lionel the 10th would be quite cool, and how his son took power. Yeah, I figured if they've been around for about 500 years or 600 years since Consolation Mirror arrived, that gives us about time for sort of 10 kings or so on. And I guess it's a tradition to basically, if you're the king of Phaetor, to call yourself Lionel. My good buddy Greg Bernard Wee and I, who came up with the World of Brando and so on, he actually came up with a full alternate history for the Kings of Phaetor. And one day I'll post that online for you guys to read. It doesn't make sense with the Sword and Sandals canon now, but he did a full kind of meetings, origin story for it all. It's really cool. Basically, the original kings were saved by intelligent lions called the Khazra, and because from predators and so on when they were back in the precursor days, and because they owed them their lives and so much, they dedicated them, and they named their kingdom after of the lions, the Lion Kingdom, and Lionel and so on. It's all in honor of the Khazra, intelligent lions. And of course, I've done a little nod to that King Lionel rides Black Mane, which is one of the last of the Khazra, the intelligent giant lions, into battle in Crusader Redux. Giant black mane. How did the rivalry between Painbringer and Birdslinger begin? And are they rivalry? What is a rivalry based on? A card game, let's just say. They're cowboys in the Badlands. I can't remember if I've done some more of that in the Tome of Law. I think I might have, but I'm going to probably be bringing them back for Sword and Sandals 6 as well, I think. Will the arena champions from Sword and Sandals 5 be reworked? They're quite bland. They are quite bland because it was never meant to be an arena-based game, and you notice the animation is quite stilted and so on. I was never able to get the engine working the way I wanted to. I probably will never go back and revisit Sword and Sandals 5, sorry to say, because I'm pretty happy with the Redux version for the most part. Will Boars of Mighty be relevant again? No, he'll be old or dead by the time. They're Sons of Frost. They've done their dash. They're back in the Frozen North as a sort of a minnow tribe again. Will Olaf continue to exist as well? No, he's dead. He's in the Blood and Mead game, which is going to be coming out. John Stayskull, my good friend, created Blood and Mead. His platform game, Blood and Mead. All Life was just a little tribute to that character, but he's dead in the world of Swords and Sandals. Crusader, I think Balls the Mighty has him killed. Will Jane Three Sheets appear as a reference Easter egg? Yeah, she will. Not as a playable character, but maybe as an old shopkeeper or something. How does Spartacus get into Brandor? How does anyone get into Brandor? Via the Consolation mirror to the planet Tritonia. Every 50 years or so, it flashes open and creatures come through. Every now and again, a very powerful creature can come through at an alternate time, but that's why we have like samurais in Sword and Sandals, and that's why you have Romans and so on, and electric guitars. They're all coming from different times and so on, but they arrive in Constellation through the Constellation mirror and bring their technology and their culture with them. It doesn't arrive independently. It's the reason that samurais would independently evolve in Brandor. Just someone came from feudal Japan and said, "Hey, let's make my own culture here." And someone powerful went to Drakendir and so on. Spartacus came from ancient Rome. The reason that the Legion of H look like Romans is because Chaos went to the real world of Earth and had a traumatic time there, but respected the legions, the Roman legions, so much that he borrowed their whole ethos and took it back. And Spartacus, of course, chases him through the portal for Sword and Sandals 6, so he'll be an arena champ. All right, my lord, that is almost an hour. So that's part 1. That's the Discord version. We're going to do the YouTube version probably next week. All right, so if you can hang on another week or so for that, because I've got a very busy week. I hope this has been enjoyable to you. It's been a lot of fun for me to do, and we'll do it again next week when I'm refreshed. And thanks again, my friends. And till next time, bye for now.